I have met three kinds of people when we are talking about AI. The first, confident people, or I would say overconfident people. They're not worried about AI at all, and what they say is, AI, what AI? I can always do a better job than this AI. Number two, shit scared people. They're so worried about AI technologies. Will we lose our jobs? And oh my God, what's going to happen? Number three, while they're doing their usual work, they keep one eye on all these AI technologies, and they do experiments and conduct researches about the ways that they can improve themselves by using these AI technologies to deliver better. And this video is all about how you can do that. My name is Rasika Mahendasari, and I'm a UX designer with over 20 years of experience in the software industry. And I'm telling you this story based on the experiments and the studies that I have conducted with AI technologies during the last few months. Go into the details. I have to mention that there's no one single UX process that fit into all kind of UX projects and activities. The process that we select will solely depend on the challenge that we have at hand and the outcome that we want to achieve. But for this particular video, I will pick a very generic process so that it will be helpful for you to understand things easily. And often a project starts off with an initial hypothesis or a problem statement that the client is having, and that client will explain it to everybody. And as a UX designer, you need to pay very close attention to that story, because you need to understand what this person is up to. And for you to get that understanding, you need something which is called the domain knowledge. A domain is a particular area of operation, a business operation, I would say. And healthcare is one domain, education, finance, there could be several different domains out there. And earlier, before this AI technology is out there, what we did was we need to conduct a bit of a research about this particular area. We have to read about certain, theses, white papers, and we have to comb through the internet to find these things to get that understanding. So domain knowledge has two different components. One is the common domain knowledge, the common procedures, the terminology, and the activities that happens, which is very common across many countries and many businesses. So earlier it was a bit of a hassle for us to conduct this initial research before we go into any UX workshop. But now, with these AI technologies, you can do it in one single place, so that go to ChatGPT and ask about this particular domain, about the operations, the procedures, the terminology. Then that person, AI will explain it to you. So you don't have to comb through the internet to get this initial understanding. And there's another component for this domain knowledge, is the very specific things to that particular business or the region or the country. To get that knowledge, you will have to have a discussion with the product owner. But before you have that discussion, that initial common understanding about the domain will help you to understand what this person is up to. Otherwise, in these UX workshops, when the client is explaining that story, you will feel it like a different language or an alien thing, that you will never get these things. If you don't understand this initial problem statement very well, then I'm sorry, I would have to say that you are done. Then you have to conduct a little bit of a research about this particular problem, because as a UX designer, your prime job is to design a better solution than what's out there. When I say what's out there, it doesn't have to be software, right? Now, we all know that every solution has pains, and every solution has gains as well. And when I say better, it's obviously a solution with less pains and more gains. For you to design that kind of a solution, you will have to understand what pain points are out there with the existing ways of doing things, and what goals and what needs are out there with these people with the existing ways of doing things. To do that, to get that understanding, you will have to do a little bit of a research. Whether it's a comprehensive research or a just enough research will totally depend on the situation, as well as the product owner's initial knowledge, as well as your understanding about the domain. And when we conduct this initial research about the problem, we need to understand what kind of users are out there, and we need to prepare certain questions, and we need to decide the ways that we conduct the research. And for us to do that easily, now AI could help you. Now, AI will not give you a set of questions or anything like that. Of course, it gives you, but what I say is ask questions about the users and their demographics and the characteristics and the possible pain points and the goals that they are having, so the AI will give you certain hints. And I'm not saying that you should ask to give you personas from AI. Of course it will give you, but what I'm suggesting is you get that initial understanding about the users as well from the AI, because based on the researches that I've conducted, is AI won't lie you. Well, I would say it won't lie you 9 out of 10 times, but if there are 10 things that you need to discover, AI will not tell you all the 10 things. And it will tell you about 3 to 4 things or 3 to 5 things. The rest you will have to figure out by conducting the research. And the things that AI will not tell you could be the most valuable thing that you need to discover. So as at now, you can't completely rely on AI on these things, but you can get some help. And then what we could do is you have to define the problem thoroughly based on the initial problem statements and the hypothesis, as well as the researches that you have conducted. You have to decide, okay, this is what it is and this is what we need to do. With the help of the product owner, you can present all the details to POs and everybody else, so that everybody can decide the way forward. And then what we do is we need to solve the problem. So often we create a rough blueprint for a solution, and then we derive key user journeys. We call them in Tier 1 UX designer classes, because when you are defining the rough solution, what you have is high-level user flows. We can't call them a user journey because it doesn't have several characteristics which a user journey is needed. Then we pick each of these key user flows that we have identified, and we detail them out to become a comprehensive user journey. Now, in this part, well, you have to do it manually. Once you have conducted this activity, then comes the interface designing phase. Often we start off with wireframing, because UI is always the visual representation of a particular user journey. Now, there are 2 different categories of companies out there, where the UX designers are the ones who's responsible for creating these user journeys. They do all these initial researches and everything, and they solve the problem, and then solve the problem initially, and they create the user journey, and they conduct everything. But there are certain companies in this world where user experience designers come into play at this particular step of creating interfaces. Now, I will explain both these things separately. First, the correct way the UX designer is involving in all these activities, and he's the one now who creates this interface designing phase. And when I say interface designing, I'm not talking about the high fidelity designs here. I'm talking about the constructing initial interfaces with the combination of information architectural patterns and interaction design patterns. Now, to create these initial interface skeletons, if you go to this particular tool that I'm showing here, now, first of all, I have to mention that I have no affiliation with any of these tools. I'm not endorsing any of those tools. And to be honest, there will be like dozens of these tools out there in the market in the next couple of years. But right now, if you go there, it will help you to create mid to high fidelity interfaces in seconds if you brief them what needs to be done. Now, how you could decide what needs to be done? Well, that is based on the previous activities that you do. For example, now I'm going to show you a sample user journey diagram that we teach to our people in tier 1 UX designer classes. Now there are several different templates for user journeys. Now this is how we do it here. Now once we have the high level user journey or user flow, we add details like the basic interactions, and there's something called technical delight. Technical delight is something where we try to mitigate the pain points of the solution. Now, like I earlier said, every solution has pains, and even the one that we create might have pains. So if we can understand these pains, or if we can envision what pains could the users would go through in this particular solution, then we can give certain things to mitigate that pain that the client will go through. So that particular feature that we call the technical delight. If we could take the initial interaction and this technical delight and feed into this tool, it will give you certain interface ideas. Now I understand the quality. I would say a professional UX designer would do a better job always as at now. But are these design ideas bad? Not at all, not at all. Or if you think that you can do a better job, what I'm suggesting is you get these initial ideas and work on them. So you can ask this tool to do certain changes in this particular prompts as well. Or you can copy these initial diagrams and paste it in Figma, and you can do the rest there as well. Now earlier, we have to create low fidelity wireframes, and then we have to create mid fidelity if needed, and then comes to the high fidelity. So now you can bypass all these steps and get things done in seconds, not in minutes. So if you argue about the quality here, what I have to say is, yes, I also agree, like I said before, but if I may remind you, certain incident happened in 1990s where IBM built a computer there in 1996, if I'm not mistaken, to play with the champion Garry Kasparov. And the first match, Garry Kasparov beat IBM Deep Blue. Then in the next year, IBM improved the computer and eventually beat Garry Kasparov. So how long that we can say that we can do a better job than AI? So if you can do a better job, then you can edit it. If you don't like this design, then you can create your own. But give it a try. That these are good suggestions that this tool is giving you. And then you can compose everything into a prototype to conduct certain tests with users. Not every test can be performed with these clickable prototypes. Figma is capable of producing some really nice clickable prototypes. Not only Figma, there are other tools as well, but the hype is for Figma these days. And we all know that if you have done any user tests, some tests cannot be conducted using these clickable prototypes. Findability test, discoverability test, of course you can do it, and if there's a small user journey with less data inputs, of course you can do it with Figma prototypes. But if the user journey is complex with a lot of data inputs are there, and especially if your user groups are low to mid tech savvy people, you won't be able to get better results by showing these clickable prototypes to those users. You need a functional prototypes with certain data mocked in. Now if you're not a UX unicorn, you will have to get the support of a front-end developer to get these functional prototypes done. And it takes time. But now if you go to this particular tool that I'm showing you here, it's a Figma plugin, and what it does is it converts your Figma designs into code instantly. It can convert them into HTML, CSS, or React, or whatever the technology that you specify which supports by this particular tool. You can get the coding part done. Again, the quality. I would say a professional front-end developer would always do a better job because of several reasons. And now if you may conduct research, you would realize that if I'll take HTML, CSS, and the code that it gives is not so semantic. For example, if there's a button, we expect it to be a button in the code, and sometimes it gives divs. But is it bad? Not at all. You can take it as your base code, and you can do the modifications or the improvements on top of that code, which saves a lot of time. But for an initial prototype, well, that is more than enough. Earlier, if it takes like weeks for you to create a prototype, now it will take only hours. In 2-3 hours, you can convert everything into a high fidelity functional prototype with no to less knowledge of coding. And that is so great in my opinion. Now, let me point out the danger here. Now, if you are a person who's working in a company, which I mentioned earlier, a company where you are involved at this particular state, where someone else will solve the problem and will give you a little bit of a brief about certain interfaces that those guys need to be done. Now, if you are in that position, I would say you are in a bit of a trouble, because with these tools, now the person who tells you the work or gives that brief, now this person can give the same design brief to these kind of tools and get some good outputs. So it won't need your help here, which is very dangerous. If you are in a company where you are not being invited for the meetings where the problems are being discussed or the solutions are being discussed, then I would say you need to brush up your UX knowledge, and you need to build certain skills to prove that you are capable of doing that, so that you can be a part of those meetings and become a full-fledged UX designer. Even though your title is UX, in those companies what you are doing is just UI work. I'm not saying you will lose your job, but if your company has 5 designers like this, and then with these tools company might reduce to half of say. So it's a bit of a scary situation, unless otherwise you brush up your skills. So if you are in the first category companies and if you are doing everything, then I would say you can save great deal of time using these tools, and you can amaze people. You can finish the workshop and you can tell the client that I will give you a mid to high fidelity prototype in a few hours. You don't have to be scared about these AI technologies, or don't get overconfident. What I'm saying is, just conduct your researches, and there are so many other people who have conducted certain researches on these technologies. So watch those videos, read those articles, and eventually do yours, and find ways that you can improve your work, your day-to-day work. And remember, it's not the strongest who's going to survive, it's the one who can adapt. Thank you.